I think they're unfrozen. Yeah, I think they're unfrozen.
The other one's good.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, what's up, everybody? There's only a couple of us today. There's a lot of exams going on, so makes sense. Welcome to week 2. If you haven't already, you should sign in with that big, ugly QR code. And today we're going to be constructing a gear piece. Yeah. Exciting. All right, cool.
So we had a couple of questions following last week's meeting. One of the questions was, if we can't make it to the session, what will happen? So luckily, we record each session all while they happen, and we also send the lecture slides or the lesson slides after each session. You can find those in the meeting minutes, which I link to the Slack, so if you haven't joined the Slack yet, do so now, so you can keep updated. So a general overview of the course, right, like we said last week, we're going to be going through the fundamentals and also some key design concepts throughout the semester, and we're hoping that with the skills that you've learned, you're going to be able to show for it by 3D printing something at the end of the semester, which we'll have displayed. So that'll be really cool, and that's what you're going to get out of this semester, or this lesson course. In terms of difficulty, we're going to ramp up. I know last week was pretty easy, but from here on until the end of the semester, we're going to be starting ramping up difficulty, so just be prepared for that. And then it is recommended that you bring your laptop, your personal laptop, just because it's your files and your laptop, and it's a lot easier to navigate on your own device. So.
Okay, yeah. So last week we did just some introduction in basic hammer building, and now this week we're going to be, like I said, constructing a gear part. We'll be using the pattern tool, project, hole, cutting tool, and a lot more stuff. So there's going to be a lot of really important information this week. So we'll try to go at your pace, and if we're going too fast, just let one of us know and we'll slow it down. All right, cool. So you should all have Fusion open if you don't already. So just like last week, we're going to start the same way that we did. So we're going to create a sketch by going to the top left corner with the green plus sign. Create sketch. When we select that, we should see some axes in different colors and some orange planes. If you can't see more than one plane, you can just go to the right-hand side where the cube is, and you can drag that cube to get more perspectives to see more planes and more axes. So for our sketch, we shall be selecting the bottom plane, which for me is the XY plane. It should change your orientation. Again, we are going to be using inches throughout all of this. So if you're not in inches, you might want to change the inches, or just do your best to follow along in millimeters if that's what you prefer. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a circle. So if we go up to the top left in the toolbar, the Create bar, you should be able to drop down and find the circle option. We're going to be selecting the center diameter circle, which for me at least is hyperlinked to my toolbar, so that's just an easy click. In addition, there's also, if I look at it, there's the little letter C right next to there. So these letters are really helpful for command clicking straight to to an option in your toolbar. So if I just click C or Control C, no, what is it?
Click out of it.
Click out of it.
Click out of it. Just click C. You have to have your cursor somewhere in the middle of the screen. You just push C and it'll hotkey into it.
Oh, cool. That's foreign to me. Yeah, so we'll be creating the circle. Once you have, no matter how you selected it, once you have the circle selected, you should be able to navigate to the center point of your plane where the X and Y axes intersect. Once there, you should be able to select that point and draw out. For our purposes today, we will be making our circle diameter 3 inches. So either manually type in 3 inches into that box or drag it out until you find it like I have. You might have to zoom in or zoom out to get more accurate. But once satisfied, you should be able to select the distance that you want. And your circle should be blue now. When you're satisfied with your drawing, just go ahead and hit Finish Sketch in the top right-hand corner. And now you've got a plane. So the first thing that we're going to do to this plane is we're going to extrude it into a thin disc. So to do that, we're going to go to the top left-hand side to the Extrude feature, which is right next to the Sketch tab. So we're going to click on the Extrude. And the plane, since it's the only one currently there, should already be selected. If it's not, you can just go ahead and click on that and it will select itself. Instead of dragging with the arrow today, we're going to type manually into this box. And we're going to extrude it out 0.2 inches. Sometimes it can be hard to see if you're actually extruding the way you want to. So if you just grab the view cube on the far right, you'll be able to see your shape in different perspectives. Again, once you're satisfied with the distance, we're going to make sure that this says new body. Since there's only one body on here anyways, we'll select OK on our extruded feature. Fusion might take a second to load it, but it will load. So the next step is we're going to hit Create Sketch because we're going to be making the gear teeth of our gear. So I'll hit the Create Sketch button at the top left corner with the plus sign. And this time I will be selecting, instead of selecting a plane, I will be selecting the top face of the part that we just extruded. It will hopefully reorient my screen to look like this. If not, you can navigate to your view cube and click on the word top, and it should redirect you to this perspective. The next thing that we're going to do is to make our teeth is we're going to select the line tool. For me, it's just right here at the top. You can also find it under Create Line or use the L function. Once you have the line tool selected, we're going to kind of zoom in to the outer perimeter of our circle here. And we're just going to, you'll notice that when I'm not on the circle, my cursor has a blue box with a plus sign inside of it, but as soon as I connect with that outer barrier, once I'm on this outer barrier, my cursor turns into a blue X. If I leave the barrier, I'm back to being a box. So we want to make sure that we're actually grabbing onto the outer perimeter of our circle. You'll click once, and we will draw out a certain distance away from the circle. The distance right now is arbitrary. And then we will go back to the outer perimeter of the circle. Again, currently the angle and the distance is arbitrary. But just select a point there. And then we'll draw one more line to connect these two dots together. So when you're trying to connect dots, the dot that you're trying to select will have a blue box to represent that it is a snap point that you can grab and draw with. So I will grab that and connect to my other snap point. You should have some triangle that looks somewhat like this. The next step is for our gear, everything really needs to be symmetric. And currently, you might not be able to tell just by looking at it, but this triangle is not nearly symmetric enough. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to make the sides of this triangle equivalent. To do that, we're going to be not on the Create tab or the Modify tab, but today we're going to be on the Constraint tab. And in the Constraint tab, we are going to be looking for the tool called Equal. It looks like a red and gray equal sign. For me, it's hyperlinked at the top, but you can also find it under the Constraints option, and you can scroll down to find it there. Once you've found the equal, you'll select that. And whichever two lines, shapes that you select, they will become equal to each other. The second object will become equal to the first object that you click to. So I will click this line, followed by this line, and you'll see that now my triangle has readjusted itself and now has these constraint bars equal signed here to tell you that these two lines are of equal length. The next step that we're going to do is we're going to go under Create, and we are looking for Sketch Dimension. Now this one is also linked, so if you just hit the D button, you should be able to grab the Sketch Dimension. I just will scroll down here at the very bottom, Sketch Dimension. And now with this tool, we will be able to manually select what length these lines are supposed to be. So I will select this first line here. And now that I've clicked on it, if I move my cursor out or in, I will get this line that tells me the distance. I'll pull it out just a certain random distance here just so it's away from my drawing. I'll click there. And now I can manually type in whatever distance I want this triangle to have for each of its lengths. So I will first type in for this one a value of 0.5 inches. When I'm satisfied with my typing, I will just hit enter. Once Fusion loads it, it will adjust your triangle accordingly. Because we had already constrained the two sides of our triangle to be equal, just by changing one length to 0.5, we have now changed the other length to also be 0.5, keeping the triangle of two equal lengths. The next step is we're going to create another sketch dimension. You should still have the sketch dimension tool selected. If not, you can just find it in the Create menu again. Mine is also hyperlinked up here. Once I've selected sketch dimension, I will grab this bottom leg of the triangle. Make sure not to grab the outer barrier of the circle, but just the base of the triangle. And I will pull down the length again, try to make sure that this length is parallel to your base here. Instead of manually typing in a certain distance that I want for this base of my triangle, we're going to link this dimension to our previously written dimension above. So to do that, instead of typing in anything while it's still selected in blue, I will just take my cursor and move over to the other previously written dimension. It should highlight in blue when you're hovering over it. Once I'm there, I will select that. And you will see that the letters D5 have now shown up where my random inch length was. But we don't want this to be necessarily an equilateral triangle, so let's now type in times, so with the asterisk, 0.8. When I'm satisfied with this, I'll hit enter. And now I have changed the base length of my triangle, and it is linked to the length that I've associated with this leg of the triangle. Which means that if I were to change this dimension, it would change the length of all three legs of the triangle. And that makes it fully developed sketch. So now that we've made one triangle, it seems like it could be very tedious to make a whole bunch more the same way to kind of get that gear look going around your circle. So now we're going to introduce to you another tool called the Circular Pattern Tool. So we're going to go under the Create bar. Once there, we will scroll down until we find the Circular Pattern Tool. You can go ahead and select that. Now with this tool, you will select all of the objects that you want to pattern. In this case, it would be the three legs of our triangle. So 1, 2, 3. And you'll notice that the other argument that it requires is the center point. So you'll go ahead and click on the word select under center point on the right side of the screen. And that will now be selected in blue. And you'll want to pan out to find the center of your disk. You might have to zoom out or drag across your screen to find it. But once you find it, you should be able to select it. Now, for this, we should be able to have a fully fleshed out ring of triangles. Currently, the quantity, which is selected, at least on my screen currently, is 3. I'm thinking more like 23. And if you select 23 with the dimensions of the triangle that we've just made, you should be able to get a fully formed population of triangles around the circumference of your circle. Once you're satisfied with the potential pattern that's now just being populated for you, you can go ahead and hit OK. And now, on my screen, I have 23 triangles, all of the dimensions that we specified previously above. This is a very, very useful tool. We're actually going to use it again later in this lesson. But this is a very important tool that you'll want to take care of. So once you're satisfied with how your drawing looks, we'll go ahead and finish our sketch at the top right corner. Our toolbar should be back to the regular solid panel. If so, now we're going to extrude our teeth of our gear to be the same thickness as our cylinder. So we'll navigate to the Extrude tool at the top left-hand side of the page. Once selected, you'll need to select each triangle individually. Yeah, but it's a circle and next time. Now that you have 23 triangles selected, what we're going to do, instead of manually typing in the distance that we want to extrude, we're going to go ahead and navigate to that top right-hand view cube, and we are going to change our perspective to show us the bottom of the disc. Once you're satisfied that you see the bottom of the disc, you will select that bottom plane of the disc. Once selected, Fusion will automatically extrude your selected faces to be that exact distance that you've just selected. So instead of having to manually type in the 0.2 inches, you can just select the object that you are trying to extrude it to, and you will have no mistakes. If I had done it wrong on accident and made it 0.21 or 0.19, this would not be a flush print anymore. We'll want to make sure that the operation shows join as opposed to new body. If it were to select new body, you would end up with 23 triangles that were all unattached to your cylinder. But with the join operation, it will make this one single piece. Once you're satisfied with the options, you'll select OK. And you can go ahead and hit the home button at the view cube to change your perspective so that you see the top again. The next step is we're going to be creating our hole pattern in our gear. So to do that, we're going to create another sketch. So we're going to navigate to the sketch icon in the top left. And again, instead of selecting a bottom or a side plane, we're going to be selecting the top face of our gear. And again, it should shift your perspective. So now we're going to be creating a construction line, which is not an actual sketch line, but more a visual aid for you to help determine where you want to start sketching an object that might not be centered on a center point. So we'll navigate to the Create line at the top, or in your Create drop-down. And instead of clicking immediately on our part, we'll navigate to the Sketch palette on the right-hand side. And you'll see the word Line Type under Options. Under Line Type, you've got two options here: Center Line and Construction. Construction is the one that kind of looks like a little triangle angle looking thing. You'll want to select that. You'll know it's selected once you move off of it and it's still blue. I'll move back over to my part, and I will select the center point. I will select the center point of our gear, and I will drag out a distance of 1 inch. The angle of this line is irrelevant, so I will make sure I type in 1 inch, and I'll hit enter. Once my 1 inch is there, you'll notice that the line is not blue as typical line sketches will be. This is now a dashed orange line. And that represents the fact that this is not an actual sketch line. The importance of this was to find this point right here, 1 inch distance from the center of your gear. Once we have this point, we will go and navigate to Create, Circle, Center Diameter, preferably. Once selected, we'll navigate to that point that is now 1 inch away from our center, and we should be able to select that there is a blue box around it showing us that it is in fact a snap point. Once selected, you should be able to drag your cursor to show that a circle will be forming at the center of that point. And I will manually type in 0.5 inches for the diameter of this circle. That is not a 0. Now, you'll notice that mine is still an orange, and that is because I had not unselected this construction option. It is very important that when you go to navigate to and from construction lines and regular sketch lines, that your line type is the preferred type. So you can navigate back over to line type if you haven't already done so, and unselect the construction tool. As you just saw, I'm going to go create a circle, find that center point, which is still a snap point, and navigate it out to 0.5 inches. And now I have a real circle at this point. So it's really important. You don't want to go too far, and you want to make sure that you see what your tools are. You want to make sure that you understand that blue is for actual sketching, and typically a dashed orange line will represent construction. And we'll get more into construction type tools later in the semester. Once we have this circle, we're going to go back to circular pattern tool. So we'll go to the create drop-down. Whoops. And we will scroll down to the circular pattern tool, which looks like a ring of circles in a circle. Once you select that, you'll go ahead and select the circle that you've just drawn. It should highlight in a thicker blue than it was before. And you'll switch to the center point option from Object, and you'll select Center Point. Once the word Select is highlighted in blue by Center Point, you can select the center of the gear. Once you do that, you'll see that it's already populated the default quantity of 3, showing you a projection of how this will look. For our purposes, we would like 5 holes in our gear. Okay. When you're satisfied, you can go ahead and hit Enter. And once you're really satisfied, you can hit Select Finish Sketch. So now we're going to be cutting out these circles to form holes in our gear. So we'll be navigating to the Extrude tool in the top right. We will select Extrude. And now we will want to make sure that we select the 5 circle profiles we've just drawn and not accidentally select the entire gear. Once we have all 5 selected, we will be using the cut feature of the Extrude tool. If I were to pull this arrow directly up, it would start to form 5 circles. But if I were to drag this down into our gear, it will automatically switch the operation into a cut feature. The distance that you extrude it out is arbitrary as long as you extrude it beyond the distance of the gear part. If you wanted to extrude it the exact distance of the gear part, you could select the bottom face of the gear once again, like we did previously. But again, arbitrary. Once you're satisfied that you've cut enough away, you can select OK. And you will be left with 5 circular holes on your part. to the base.
Probably just like using visual look. There's no reason why there should be.
Yeah, there really is no reason.
Very good.
Yeah. I don't know. All right. Now that we have our 5 circular holes, we'll be creating a center hole. To create a center hole, we will go under the Create tab, or mine is hyperlinked above mine, but we'll go to the Create tab, and we will find the Hole tool, which is also the letter H, and it looks like a box with a circle in it. Once you've found this tool, you will select it, and we will select the top face of our gear. Now, wherever I just clicked, a massive hole has appeared, but this is not the exact position that we want it to be in. So I will use my cursor to grab the blue center dot, and I will drag this until it snaps to our snap point in the middle of our gear. You'll notice that there are many options under the hole type. You can change the drill bit to make it a counterbore or even a countersink. But for our purposes, we'll leave it simple. You can change the hole tap to have different types of threading. But again, for our purposes, we'll leave it as simple. And you can even change the drill bit. For our purposes, we'll make it flat. We'll use this bar on the right-hand side to scroll down to see more options. And you'll see a little diagram that has the dimensions of our hole. And we will make sure that we want our diameter of our hole to not be a full inch, but rather 0.75 inches. Slightly larger than all of our other circles, but not massive. When we are satisfied with this, we will select OK. We've now created a larger hole in the center of our gear. So now we will be creating a support ring for this center piece here. So we will be going back to Create a Sketch at the top left. We will select the top face of the gear as our plane. It should, again, change your perspective to look like this. If not, you can use the view cube to do so. We will go to the center diameter circle. In this case, that's C, or Create, and find your circle options, center diameter. We will click on the center of our gear, and we will make this a diameter of 1 inch. We can either manually type that in, or we can find a snap point that finds it. When we're satisfied, we'll select that. And we will select Finish Sketch. Next, yeah, you guessed it, we're going to extrude. Yeah, we're going to go over to the Extrude tool. Select Extrude. And we are going to go and navigate to the ring that we've just created by adding that circle around the hole that we created. So you'll select that ring that should populate when you hover over it. And now that ring is blue. We will extrude this ring a distance of 0.1 inches. That's too small, 0.1, my bad. Again, sometimes you can just get a better perspective to see how that looks. When you're satisfied with how your ring looks, You can make sure that you're on the join feature and hit OK. The next two tools that we're going to introduce to you are very important, very useful, and that would be the Fillet and Chamfer tools. So first we'll start with the Fillet tool. So under Modify, you should be able to find the Fillet tool with the letter F, or if you scroll down and find Fillet. Fillet allows you to take sharp edges or corners and round them off. So we will select that tool. And now we have the opportunity to select an edge or a face. Oops. An edge or a face or a feature. In this case, we will be selecting an edge, the inner rim of our ring. Once selected, we will manually type in 0.03 inches, and that will give us a nice, clean, fillet internal ring. I recommend manually typing that in. Sometimes the arrow on Fusion can get a little finicky, a little glitchy. Once you're satisfied with that distance, you can select OK or Enter. Now we're going to talk about the Chamfer tool, which is a very similar tool, also under Modify in the middle of the screen. Chamfer can be found directly under the Fillet tool. And this takes sharp corners and edges and makes them flat to add a little geometry to your piece. So we'll go ahead and select that. And this time, the edges or face that we are going to be selecting is the rim of our 5 holes that we've recently created. So we'll go ahead and select those. Once selected, we will go ahead and type in the same distance that we had previously, which was 0.03 inches. Again, I do not recommend using the arrow for this tool, at least specifically at such a small distance, as it does get relatively glitchy. Once you're satisfied with the distance that you've typed in, you can select Enter or hit OK to solidify that chamfer. If we zoom in here, you'll see the slight difference on a circular edge on what a chamfer does versus what a fillet does. And you'll see that here the edge that we've chamfered is a flat decline, while here our fillet is more of a round off. To continue, we will be doing the last piece of our gear to finish it off, and that is creating an outer ring around our center hole. So to do that, we will be going to create sketch in the top left, but instead of selecting the bottom plane or the top face of our gear like we typically have, we will be selecting the one of these vertical planes. I will be selecting the ZX vertical plane, but the YZ does the same. You should now be oriented to see the flat side of your gear. You're going to want to zoom in to this intersection between the ring here and the rest of the gear. And now we're going to teach you honestly one of my favorite, and I think one of the most important sketch tools there is, which is the Project tool. The Project tool allows you to project objects or other sketches or shapes that are not in this current view. For example, if I wanted to grab this line right here, there is no exact snap point for me to do so. But with the project tool, I will be able to turn this line into a piece that I will be able to select in this form. So I will navigate under the Create section on the top left, and I will find all the way at the bottom Project/Include. And you'll notice that the Project, which is the first option, also has the shortcut P. So you can also select the P to grab this tool. Once selected, you'll be prompted to select geometry. You'll want to select this ring that I have here. Once satisfied that I've selected all the geometry that I wish to project onto the sketch, I will select OK. And now you'll notice I've got two purple dots on the top and bottom of this ring here that are now snap points that I can very easily connect to. So first that I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these two dots together to form a line by navigating to the Line tool under the Create window or the L button, or if it's in your toolbar. I'll navigate to this snap point and I will connect the dots. You'll notice that it will show that blue box around that point. And now my line is a black line to show that it is a fully constrained sketch of a line. Still holding the Line tool, I will grab this bottom dot of our line and I will draw it out 0.15 inches. Now, if it might have sent you out of the Line tool, and that's okay. We'll just navigate back to the Line tool, and we will connect this top dot to this far out bottom dot to create our triangle. Once you've done so, you'll notice that the space within the triangle has now turned a slight shade of blue, and that again represents the fact that you have now created a plane that you will be able to select. When you're satisfied that your triangle has created a plane, you can hit Finish Sketch at the top right. And now we're going to navigate to the Revolve tool. So we're going to take this triangle and we are going to revolve it around the outer ring of our gear. And you'll see as I change the perspective, you'll see that I have this triangle standing up against the wall of this ring. So I'll go to the Create tool. I will find the Revolve function. Once you've selected that, my profile has already been selected for me, but if it hasn't, you can go ahead and select the triangle profile. Once you've selected the triangle profile, make sure to select the axis option. And you will want to grab the center axis with which to revolve. In this case, the z-axis is the center axis to revolve with. So I'll find that blue already populated axis for me right there. I'll select that. And the default option is 360 degrees. It is to join to my body. Once I am satisfied with those options, I will click Select or OK or Enter. I can zoom out now. And now you will see that I've created my full gear piece with 5 circular pattern holes, as well as a larger center circle with a center ring around it. And that concludes the construction of our gear today. So again, to go over, we talked about a lot of different important tools, like the circular pattern tool, the project tool. We did some more things with extrusion, as well as fillet and chamfer. We introduced you to the Revolve Tool. So again, next week and the weeks after, we'll be going over a lot more tools just like these, and we'll be getting more familiar with a lot of the ones that we've just introduced to you all. So we just want to thank you all for coming today. Again, next week we'll be specifically dealing with the more sketch constraints, as well as the sweep tool. So stay tuned. Again, hit us up on Slack if you need anything. If you can't make a meeting, if you need help, we're all there for you. So yeah, thank you all so much for coming.
I'm gonna have to run out in a minute, but just make sure you stop recording.